Dane, you may go ahead.
Okay, then great. Good afternoon, everyone. I trust that you're all doing well. I do thank you for joining us this afternoon on this platform via Zoom to share yet again knowledge and information on pretty much agriculture in general, but more specifically backyard gardening and how this, of course, can lead to and perhaps become a profitable venture or even morph into other businesses. So thank you for joining us, and do feel free to share this information with your friends and with your family members. And of course, as usual, reach out to us via our WhatsApp line 401-4766, or of course on our social media page, or pages rather, at Carib Chem Jam. And of course, feel free to tune in on Wednesday morning at 6:18 through to 6:45 on Power 106, where we, of course, have more dialogue on agriculture. So as mentioned, I am Dane Parker, product development agronomist for the central region. It encompasses Clarendon and Manchester. And of course, the subject matter this afternoon is one that is of no strange thing to anyone. Of course, everybody is encouraged to do it. And I, of course, welcome all participants. If you do have a question at the end of the conversation, or you could drop it in the chat, we will respond accordingly. So why backyard gardening? How does it, why is it important? How does it impact on the wider society? What are the benefits to be derived from doing so? And can we, of course, morph this into a larger activity? That's the messaging and the conversation that we're going to be having this afternoon. So let's take a closer look here and now at, what is it that we're talking about here? So if you're looking at backyard gardening, most of us would have seen, you're from the rural settings or you're in the urban setting. If you're thinking backyard gardening, then it's either containerized, it's either in a small garden area, but not necessarily large scale. So you need to be considering, of course, what kind of crops am I going to be growing? What are the space requirements about the plant, and what's its mature size? What sort of nutrition, what are inputs am I going to be using? Am I thinking to go full-fledged automated? Am I harvesting rainwater? Or do I just want to plant a little row of callaloo somewhere in the yard and just be over with it? But even so, while you do that, bear in mind too that we do have neighbors. So of course, getting into it, we might have more and we can share. And of course, once you start harvesting like your lettuce or your callaloo, what do you do with the strippings, and how do you dispose of it, and what can be done with them to, of course, generate more inputs into your production system? And while you're considering this, how do I manage, if so be it, pests, and what sort of strategies would I need to put into play? Of course, you look at the image on the left of your screen, perhaps right of mine or yours. There is a small containerized garden where these are made from, you name the size, container or bottle. Some of them are what we classically call like your regular 6-inch garden pots, or you can be looking at recycling material. So all of this, brings into a sharp focus of, what are some of the benefits and what is there to be derived from doing this? And of course, everybody's keeping physical nowadays, keeping active. It's good to get up in the mornings and to go out and have a nice, fresh, clean breath of air outside before everything else begins. Of course, it also, once you start producing, consider the fact that you can reduce your grocery bill, on the vegetable side or on the condiment side, so things like those you can consider. And again, as you continue to increase the quantities, bear in mind too that you have neighbors, you have infirmaries, places of safety where you can carry these and make the donations. So even that, it gives you more a sense of belonging to a wider society. And again too, having more fresh fruits and vegetable options, you can do several things with them. Of course, make your green juices, or you just add them to your regular vegetable stir-fry mixes. How am I sounding so far? Sounding great? Good. Now, it gives you also, again, this therapeutic feeling. I mean, it takes you away from the hustle and bustle of the cell phone and the screens, just to be on the outside. And of course, last but not means least, it can also become an income generator where you are growing these crops. They weren't intended to be for profit or for revenue, but because you're producing again in quantities, you can of course look at those as options. In my community, I have a small garden, and my neighbors know that I have lettuce and pak choy and callaloo. And so what I had to do was to expand. So rather than planting 4 rows just for myself and other households, guess what? I ended up planting no more than 10 rows. So it has now morphed into something else. And so if you have the space, these are things that you can start to consider and of course, practice. So how do we, of course, engage into this, and what are some of the plants or the crops that we're going to be using inside of these kind of systems? And are there benefits to be derived from that? So we're talking about here and now utilizing your different leafy vegetables, and of course you can rotate. So you're talking about your callaloo, your pak choy. Notice I group them. You have your legumes, you have your peas and beans, you have corn. So these are things that you can consider, and they can be interplanted, or they can be, it doesn't have to be in any specific order, but at the same time, it gives you an opportunity, of course, to participate with nature and to, of course, grow your own food. So things like your scallion, and of course, who doesn't have a little backyard garden? The first thing to think, well, I need to plant a pepper, because you're using your sweet peppers or your hot peppers, and of course, these come in quite handy. And again, too, now, your other vegetables like your tomatoes, your cabbages, and so on. So all of this, as I was saying earlier, when you harvest your corn, this can be composted. When you harvest your peas and beans, these can be brought back into your soil. And of course, you're making use of Mother Nature's greatest inputs. The resources, of course, are coming back to the soil, which is adding back to the improvement of not just your health, but of course, the life of your soil. So these are some of the crops. And of course, at Caribbean Chemicals here, we do say that we believe this mantra, not just to talk about it, but to live it, that we support these activities, whether they be small or whether they be large. And of course, you'll hear further on in the conversation that we do have inputs, of course, that we can utilize to use in your backyard garden spaces. All right, so let's get on down with it. Now, as we look further, we're talking about some tips here and now that you, of course, you can utilize. Feel free to share some of your own tips in terms of with the different participants here. Just drop them in the chat, in the public chat, where everybody can see them. And of course, they can always use the information accordingly. So what are some of these ideas? We're talking about using softer inputs. We don't want to be using any of these harsh chemicals. And again, at Caribbean Chemicals, we do have these products very much available for you, softer in terms of fungicides, insecticides, that different types of repellent products that, of course, work within the system of your household or in that small space, be it an apartment or somewhere of the sorts, where you can, of course, benefit from that. To rotate, again, is to, of course, or to diversify is, of course, paramount interest, because, again, if you go the route of trying to become or setting up a monoculture, then you run the risk now of having a certain type of pest buildup where you might have to move into using harsher chemistries. And again, we want to stay on the softer side. You could do cover crops, your perennials. You could also do what we call reduced tillage. These are strategies. You can always plant other repellent plants here too. so as to aid, like you plant some marigold, which is gonna keep away like nematodes and so on. Or you have other beneficial plants that can also attract your butterflies, so you can have more pollinators, so you have more pollination taking place. So these are some things that you want to consider here in point number 2. Again, you reduce tillage depending on where you are. If you're on a slope, if you're on a surface that is going to cause some amount of washing or runoff, then consider to just dig or loosen the soil right where you are going to be establishing the crop, so you can, of course, utilize that. So, strategies like those that we're promoting here this afternoon. Again, to your integrated pest management approach or approaches. So, of course, you do your general monitoring, walking through that plot, ensuring that you're seeing what is happening, because the idea here, we don't want to have any explosion of pests, and then you're going to have to go to harsher chemistries. Some of these in the earlier stages, you can pick them off with your hands, right? Or you can remove the damaged parts, or you see the eggs. So you can do strategies like these, you can, of course, bring forth. And in the chat just now, someone mentioned using eggshells. So these are things that you bring to bear in these kind of spaces to increase your calcium levels, to ward off different pests. And at the same time, if you have a larger space, then of course, you can, of course, integrate larger plants, kind of multi-story kind of effect, not to shade out anything, but to allow for you sort of mixing of the different plants, so you don't build up any one particular pest or diseases. And of course, where you do have livestock, of course, if you need to use the organic side, the manures, of course, get them broken down properly and incorporate them into your soils, so you can, of course, utilize them accordingly. Again, here, ladybugs can be utilized for your pests. So it's a wonderful thing to know that nature has already provided. And so our objective as, backyard enthusiasts or be commercial growers is to encourage all of these activities in your space. And how do we do that? We call them best practices. We follow those guidelines nature has already provided for itself. And so all we need to do is to integrate those into our system. So we move on from those tips. I hope you're getting them, making short notes. And for those who wish to watch this program again, bear in mind that it's being recorded live on our YouTube platform. So of course, feel free to join in where necessary. And of course, again, participate in the chat. All right, so what are some of the ideas that we're talking about here? Whether be containerized or so on. Let's work from my cursor, which is my left of my screen. I'm not sure if it's yours, right? To the other side. Now, this farmer in particular started out with some parsley, and of course, his business exploded. People wanted more, and so he started to plant more. But the soil, look at the soil right here. This is stone. And what he did was to backfill this area. He had some old plywood from his roof or lumber from his roof. And what he did, he made a bed, a raised bed. And of course, added this organic matter. This system, of course, included rainwater harvesting. Pretty much something we could look at. I mean, when we do have rainfall harvested, use it for those gardens or even for your own use at home. This is a farmer who I believe is in Portmore. This was an article reported in the Gleaner magazine that, he's on top of his roof. So it's not just backyard, but he's gone rooftop. And of course, he's recycling several oil containers. And of course, you see the diversity of vegetables. This looks like a drawer that he used or a small bin. So these are things that you can, of course, utilize in and around your spaces wherever they are. This farmer, this is Irish potato for those who are not aware. Yeah, man. So it looks almost like a tomato plant, right? Same family. Now, notice what happened. The seeds were planted and they're growing out. And what they're doing here is to stack them up or to stack it and then let the potato grow downwards. And of course, when it's time to harvest, all you're doing is to shift these tires and you're harvesting. Now, in this scenario here, what you're seeing here is strawberry. Again, another strawberry enthusiast in Mandeville. And so what you're seeing occurring here is a situation where, again, small scale, backyard, but she wanted to find out how best to incorporate that space, which is somewhat limited, and to grow these particular crops in question. So, there are different persons doing different things. And of course, all of it constitute, of course, and adds to the greater good, which is backyard farming. Here, these are some 45-gallon drums, or rain barrels, or whatever you call them. These are cut in half and, of course, backfilled. Be it that you're going to make your own media or medium, which is the soil that you're putting in, or you're going to be using our grow mix. We do have one that is, of course, suitable for this kind of work. Here you're growing, these are cabbage and some amount of cauliflower and pak choy and tomato to the furthest. So there are different examples and strategies. There are window or ledge baskets that can be made. So you have limited spaces, you're on an apartment complex. If you have the space that is on the ground level, this is an example that I've seen used many times, even at one particular farm here in Mandeville, where the soil was just brought in and backfilled into these blocks, and they're planting romaine lettuce in it. So there are several things that can be done. These are some planter boxes that are utilized. And of course, I must hasten to say here too that we have our own strategy, which I'm going to introduce to you in a few moments. Again, simple things. This could be a recycled pallet where you're using the pallet, you fix the bottom in and you're growing your different herbs. So there are several methods and strategies, again, even tire. You have mint on top, there's lettuce, and of course there's some scallion, and you could add, the different things that you utilize on a regular basis. So you have fresh from the garden. Each time you need a little cup of tea, you just slip outside, take your scissors with you and prune off a nice piece and you brew accordingly. So methods are out there, farmers. Methods are out there, enthusiasts, to utilize your space, whatever they are, small or large, and of course, when you do produce excess, remember your neighbors and your friends. Another approach, if you've gone commercial now, where this farmer is using the same drums, but what they did, they cut them in half and they're doing a floating raft system where they grow romaine lettuce. He doesn't have sufficient space, but he's making use of it. If you're talking about drip irrigation, this is what I was referring to. Now, what was done in this instance is the same PVC pipe, and if you get a small piece of drip tape, whether they are new or recycled, with a 45-gallon drum, and all happens here in this small little home garden is that the entire thing is somewhat we call automated, where the barrels are filled and, of course, allowed to drip out on the plant. In the afternoon, you come out, you go around the back, attend to those plants and allow them to get water just the same. And if you're thinking that you're going to go commercial or larger, or just to have, that inclusion of technology, there's always the hydroponic setups that can be utilized, whether be, or if you want to go drip irrigation. So that's what this is showcasing here. This system produces 59 plants, no, 49 rather, and pretty much it's self-contained. Everything pretty much is done on its own here. The system is plugged in, or you can, of course, get solar panels to utilize on it. So you're not using or plugged into the Jamaica Public Service. So, several strategies are out there. Of course, at Caribbean Chemicals, this is what we are talking about. Again, I did say backyard. So for those who are wondering, then, oh, this guy has so much bags. Yeah, man, this is the size of his backyard, right? So there are different size lots and everything around us, not all the same. No, these are what we call grow bags. And of course, again, too, depending on what you're trying to achieve or trying to do, and if you want to keep it as simple as possible, you could buy just 4 or 5 of these bags. And you plant your pak choy, plant your lettuce, a few roots of tomato in them, and you have it right around the back. Comes with the media inside, or you buy it separately, or you can make your own. And of course, you backfill and utilize. If you want to go water them on your own, fine. Or you can get the drip hose or the emitters and include that in it. It's scalable, can go on top of your decking or wherever you so choose. This system, of course, on the where I'm pointing at now, this is completely what I refer to as automated. Now you can get from 3, 12, or 6 of these pots, and it comes with an entire system. So it's what I call self-contained. And again, each tier has 4 plants in it, as you realize on the ones on top. And how this works pretty much is that when you make the purchase of this, you'll purchase your nutrition package, which is diluted at a particular ratio inside these buckets, and it pretty much waters itself. The pump is set on a timer. And again, if you plug into the sun or into the local distributors of electricity, then you're good to go right there. Nothing else to really worry about. You'll see more of this at the Denby Agricultural Show, of course, happening this July. So, of course, turn out at the booth. We're at the same place. I believe well, I won't give all the details just yet. You'll hear more about it in subsequent shows, but it's going to be bigger, better, and of course, lots of prizes and surprises awaits those who pass through. So, automatic, self-contained, freestanding, you pretty much set it and forget it. It's just when you're ready to harvest, you can move on around the back and get some more of what you need. So as I'd mentioned earlier, we, of course, pride ourselves in providing the inputs for our enthusiasts, be it commercial growers or small scale or backyard. And the objective here is to give you everything that you need, of course, with the sound technical knowledge and backing that comes with it. Of course, you have a full package here from Caribbean Chemicals Jamaica Limited. Of course, from seeds to your growing media, to your nutrition program, and to your production system. So whether you want to go in a small container, we can still provide that, or we can still provide the guidance, or whether you want a particular seed type, we still, of course, provide that. So let's look at some of the seeds. Our 2 main sources, of course, are from Namdari and from Nonu. These seed inputs, again, are pretty much localized. They were selected and thought out carefully with a view to, of course, give you that climate smart protection that we all need in our different production systems, right? So from cantaloupes to your tomatoes, to your watermelon, to your sweet peppers, we have it all. Even our scallion seeds, or what we call bunching onions, we have them all here at Caribbean Chemicals. And you might even say, watermelon, Sapark, are you sure? You say, yes, man, of course. It doesn't need a large space. You could plant 4 seeds, and you're surprised to see the kind of yield you get from that and how far you can have in terms of that much to share. Again, the different melon and peppers that we have, they be it Purple Star, Red Star, as well as Polaris, as well as our Empire #2, Sureness, and Dark Bell. This is, of course, the Sureness and Dark Bell are one of my personal favorites on the basis that they grow small. So I call it a personal watermelon. So when I have my Sureness or Dark Bell, this is a moment where I don't share, right? Great. So I'll tell you where to get more, but certainly, you know, to grow yours in the different spaces, it doesn't require a lot of space. And the maturity time, of course, is just 12 weeks. So, you know, by the time you turn around, you realize you have watermelons right there. And they come in a 10 gram and a 100-gram size. So you can choose from and mix match and select what you so need. From the Namdari side of seed lines, we have carrots. I'm going to show you an example later of one of my farmers who just made what we call a kind of reverse tillage, or a back-tilled an area, and pretty much made a little embankment and grew some carrots in it. And he was able to pull from that, you know, several. So do we carry baby seeds? Not sure, well, not at the moment, but the watermelons that I just made reference to earlier, these are pretty much small fruits. The dark bell and the, let me just go back for a moment. So just to point out to you, for the question that was asked, these watermelons are pretty much what we call the, as I said, it's a 10-pound watermelon, it's a 7-pound, 10-pound watermelon. So you're talking about a fruit that is, perhaps if you know what a Gatorade bottle looks like, I mean, one of those small, what these are baby melons, these are watermelons that are small. So, it does allow for, use or grown in a small space. So you don't need a whole lot of running space for them. So, in terms of Namdari too, we do have different cantaloupes and sweet peppers, again, to geared towards being grown in containers or in a small garden or a small space. And again, with some of these crops, once you establish like your peppers, there's hardly much you need to do in terms of replant, because they'll always give you more fruit continuously. Same thing for your deli tomato. For your lettuce, you can just cut off a few leaves and allow them to spring back. And yes, of course, you can spring back. Yeah, man. And you'll get more from that continuously. So there are different strategies you can employ in terms of how the input lines from us. So as mentioned now, in terms of the growing mix, so if you are going soilless or in a what we call a container, then of course the grow mix is something that you can utilize along the way. It comes with a coarse mixture and it comes with a fine blend. So it all depends on what is it that you're trying to seek out here. Again, to farmers and enthusiasts, we can always use different composite material with your topsoil with the same Euromix and give you that kind of custom blend that you so require. So this is something that you can consider even from home. Get some topsoil from a small area, or to make a purchase of one of these bags. It comes with some amount of nutrition, but not what the plant would need for its entire life cycle. So bear that in mind as well as you make your purchase. It's blended specifically, lightweight. Well, the bag is about 50 pounds, but I mean, lightweight in terms of when you fill your growing pots and medium, it's not something that is going to be tying up nutrients or going to be heavy to move around if you so have to move them around. So, it's something that you can fill a window basket with and, hang it there or on your veranda grills and so on your porches. So that's for your growing mix and media rather. In terms of nutrition, you can go granular, or you can go foliar, or you can go soluble. Now, let's examine all of this and break it down a bit. The granular fertilizers represent the regular standard blends, which you can purchase in a 50-pound bag or smaller. These, of course, are available in two of our specific brands, which is the Abodam as well as the Elixir Zorka blend. Now, they come as either standard blends, meaning that there are specific blends that target specific growth stages of the crop, or you can simply get one. That one is called sort of an all-purpose type, where it can be utilized throughout the entire growing cycle of the plant. So, that's where we're talking about. In terms of soluble line now, it's the Agasol fertilizer blends. And these, of course, are, if you're going to be utilizing like a drip irrigation, or if you just want to melt something out and just use to pour at the root zone of the plant, that sort of way. So that's how this one is, the Agasol is utilized. Where the granulars are concerned, be it Elixir or Abodam, they are just incorporated around the root zone, either at planting or during the growth phase, and that provides sufficient nutrient package for the plants as they continue to grow and to develop. All right. Hope we're getting it as we go. Now, these are what we call foliars. Let me just respond to what's happening in the chat here. Are these organic blends? All right. So we do have products that are coming on stream, and as well as those that I'm going to be talking about here that are what we call, they have organic constituents. So they are not necessarily certified organic, but the manner in which they are made and prepared are made in standards that are much higher than what the regular local blends are like in Jamaica. So that's one of the key takeaways I want you to have here and now. So in terms of the granular compositions, they give you a higher result at the same time with less filler material, less chlorides and sulfates that are the problem issues there where it comes on to environmental concerns. All right, so that is that. Now, where it comes on to the soluble lines, now, or folia rather, we're talking about products like your agar leaf, and these come in three different types, which is your root max, your flower max, your Nutrimax, and your green max. Again, the names suggest the stage of the plant cycle that you apply them. Good. So like a flower max is used anywhere from 3 weeks or at your flowering stage going through. If, for example, you're growing like callaloo, then of course your green max is something that you'd want. So your leafy vegetables, consider your green max. So let's say you just planted them out, right? Then what you'd want now is a root max, which is something that is going to be giving you that high quality roots development that is going to be pushing the plant. Now, again, while these are not certified organic, the quality of the material is what we're talking about here that makes them. So they are without chlorides and without the different impurities that would cause them to either harm the environment or even scorch the plants, right? So that's something to consider here as you look at the agar leaf line. Now from Omics, we have the Bio 20, Fortify, and Calmax B, as well as Folia Boron. Now, what these are really geared towards, again, similar to your AgaFert line, they are so designed to give you the kind of growth and development. The Bio 20 comes with seaweed extract, and this, of course, is giving you, and it's a natural product that comes from what we call kelp or seaweed. And the objective here is to provide the plant with a natural type of biostimulant that is going to give you rapid growth and development, while at the same time, again, not harming the environment. The other lines, of course, provide for you the similar products in terms of quality of the raw material. They are made from what you call the EBA technology, which pretty much represents the fact that they are what we call bioavailable, meaning that they are made from material or constituents that the plant can readily utilize. And so they are, again, made from excellent quality material that are not harmful to the environment, and at the same time are going to give our home growers no greater concern in terms of, can I apply these and at the same time use them in my dishes and so on without any major concern. So, these are things to consider as you look at them. Now, it says here that we sometimes cannot use all of what we purchase. Again, no, the idea here too is the sizes that they come in. So, having recognized that you just need a smaller proportion where these lines are concerned, they are so tailored, even down to like a 250 grams or 500 milliliters or 120 ml, which again provides for you the grower not having to bite and then put it down. If that's enough to respond to your question. So it gives you the opportunity to use all at once, if so be the case, or to buy a smaller package as you so require. So that's how they are utilized, and that's how we at Caribbean Chemicals would have packaged them so as to give you the opportunity. So it's a strategy that we look at. We're considering everyone along the production line and the product into agriculture at the same time. So be it large or large scale, that's what we're thinking about. All right, so let's move on down to the different inputs. Again, no. Now, I know this might be a touchy area and touchy subject when it comes on to pest strategy, but what we've looked at, and these are some general guidelines and strategies that we say to our farmers, be it commercial growers or backyard enthusiasts. Look at the long-term approach, look at the types of crops that you have, and then let's see how we can reduce the pest numbers. Let's look at the population size. Remember, no, if it's just one pest, we can always take care of that. And then if we look at the breeding cycle, or if we look at the different factors that are contributing to reproduction here and now, then we manage those so as to, again, reduce the population size. Whatever conditions that would favor their development, the objective is to reduce those. So let's give an example here and now. In your garden, and the garden is overrunning with weeds, you're competing for space, you're providing a habitat for the other pests, right? So you want to reduce those, take out the unwanted. In a situation where you've planted like carrots, but the density in terms of the amount of seeds you use to that small area is too high, then you're likely to have diseases showing up. Great, making sense? So reduce the amount of carrots that you sow, shake it and thin it wide enough. And this, of course, will give you, again, a longer term protection. Notwithstanding that we do have what we call green band as well as organic inputs, right? These are first approach strategies that you can utilize. And of course, I must say, utilize your different sticky traps and light traps. These work too to distract and to disorient and to keep out pests. And remember, I said it earlier, if you plant different types of crops, then what you'll realize, you won't have certain insect pests bothering you. And at the same time, you do have plants like marigold and others that are also repellent, so they keep out the others, right? So consider those. Again, the objective too is your backyard. Limit the pesticide use to different types, the amount, as well as the requirements that are so needed. So question is, I plan put it in my backyard, and I realized since after that some of the leaves are burning or dying. What do I suggest? All right, so this could be a situation where it could be several. Can I ask you a favor? If you have those images, or if you're near home and can take a quick pic, send it to our WhatsApp line, 407-401-4766. Give me a closer look at it where I can get a specific diagnosis, so I can tell you, of course, what to do. But it sounds to me like you're having like a blight, or it could be mite infestation. So it could be one of two situations showing up right there. It could be a fungal attack, which is pretty much sort of leaning towards. So bear that in mind. All right, so remember the number now, Georgia. If you're, well, I know you're online, so you can just drop the number in the chat so the participant could share that image so we can take a better look. All right, thank you. So in terms of the green pan products, Refast, we have Carigold that are and as well as Botanigard. And again, these are so designed to give you that kind of control with not having to use the broad brush kill. Now, again, I was telling you about some strategies. Here we go now. So we have the monitoring with your sticky traps, using your adjuvants if you need to do so. Remember too that you also have what we call an action threshold. How much of these pests can you tolerate before you move to making a knockdown of the population? So, and these are all before you move towards, saying that you're going to be using a pesticide, putting these measures long before now. All right. So the strategy, of course, again, must be sustainable in anything that you do, with your monitoring, using your biological controls. How practical am I going to be using these things? Does it make sense? This again too it might look technical here, but this is a row cover pulled over cabbages so as to keep out the diamondback moth again. So screening and things like those you can consider. And again, they are not very expensive. These are low cost options that give you the long-term results. So In your crop protection strategy, this is where you want to be keeping in that green area where there is a little to no impact on the environment or on yourself or on the space that you're in. So we try to keep it in this area, and hence the need for Carigol, your Botanigard, your Carbendazim. These are products, your Refas. They are so designed to give you that kind of control without having to worry about are they harmful to you nor the environment or to those around you being your loved ones. So things to consider in terms of that. All right, so bear those in mind as we pursue them. Now, once you're considering to use any of these or to do setup, then of course bear in mind that you need to read the label, get your protective gear, right? And always, of course, you handle these products carefully. And again, too, if you're using your knapsacks and in the sprayers, be sure to ensure that you're monitoring it in terms of leaks and repairs. And again, no smoking or drinking or eating whilst you are using any sort of pesticide, even though the labels are green, right? And even though they are labeled organic, none of these should, all of these should be, of course, monitored carefully. And again, your personal hygiene, clean up, wash down, tear down the sprayers yourselves, wash the PPEs and put them to sun dry. Don't, if they're not supposed to go in your washing machine, but because again, clothes and other things, residues can be left behind. So bear that in mind. So all of those are carbon chemicals. Again, we try to ensure that you do. This is the carrot patch I was telling you about. But if the density here is too high, then you notice there are some lighter or some darker brown areas showing up. Again, the signs of Altenaria. So all you would need to do is to thin this out. Yes, you might be losing some, but the goal here is to save the majority, or to at least have the better options of higher quality than to resort to getting into the use of various kinds of pesticides. So strategies to be employed and tactics to, of course, utilize. So bear that in mind as we move forward in doing that. So are there any questions from you at this time? I've been monitoring the chat. Let me just check back to see if I skipped any or if I got them all as I was going. All right, I did the potato here to respond to me. What are the average expiry dates on these products? We do monitor the dates, but where it comes on to the foliar nutrition, we monitor those. If they are in a space where we find that they're going to be expired in short order, then of course they're either pulled from the marketplace and of course we tested. So there are no expired products in the trade. And if we find that they are getting close to that, then we have our own internal mechanism that triggers a response. And that response will cause us to do a series of things. Ms. Seymour, I'm not sure, I'm not seeing the raise hand feature. I'm not sure if I'm the one not seeing it, but if you...
Yes, Seymour.
Yeah, you can go ahead and open your mic and ask a question. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Compost fertilizer.
Yes.
I know this probably is another topic, but my father does backyard gardening.
Yes.
And he uses just the skin from vegetables that he peels. He uses leaves from the trees.
Yes.
He uses the eggshells. And that produces so much. His fruits, the product is exceptionally sweet. He get an abundance of it. He has Hass avocado,
Mhm.
has a mango, prickly pear, a pomelo, grapefruit, and mere lemon, yeah,
Okay.
lemon, and that's all he uses. He doesn't use any other chemical things.
Well,
But I know there may be
mhm.
others who wants to do other things, but as you say, um, we can use what the earth already produced and
Indeed, so
reuse.
sure.
Yeah, rather than having to buy fertilizer, figure out a composted system. And as you move forward, because he uses onion skin, everything, he puts it all in, but there's a process on how you compost. And
Yes,
it's not
indeed.
very
Mhm.
difficult. Yeah, it's not very difficult. And you're reusing what you already have. And it's just like it's um it's like when you put a riser into something, a natural riser, and it builds. And I think you mentioned something about sea kelp. He
Yes,
uses
yes,
that
indeed.
too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sea kelp, and that helps. And fish skin. When he does the fish, he gets rid of the scale and he uses all the parts and the cuts because they all have some type of nutrient that the plant can naturally absorb,
Yes, and that
producing.
and that's the idea here and now to as I said, in terms of even when you crop harvest, what do you do with the outer leaves, what you've raked from your lawns, things like that. So for your compost, it's not difficult. It's usually your greens and your browns. So green leaves and shrubs that you've removed from different plant parts. You alternate them in layers. Again, too, if you have different forms of manure, you can add those in, and then you simply go one layer after the other. Some compost can be ongoing, meaning that you can start at one point and then you're pulling out at the other. So you make several or multiple layers or multiple compost in between. So you have a somewhat continuous supply. So it all depends on your input. But thank you for sharing. I mean, this is indeed the approach and the way to life, to continue to build back your soil and build back your space, and of course provide too for yourself. But should you also be in need of technical guidance and needing someone to just to guide the process, we do have different agronomists that are across the length and breadth of Jamaica, and again to you know, very much knowledgeable, such as myself, that can bring to your different space, whatever it is that you're doing, be it a small plant to hundreds of acres, this kind of system. Yes, is there another raised hand? Yeah. Go ahead, sir. I did hear another voice. Am I correct? Oh, I thought I was hearing incorrectly. But in the Cornwall side, we have Aluda Shaw and Dale Smith. In the Savlamar, and they cover, of course, Hanover, Montego Bay, and St. James, and some parts of Westmoreland. And again, you have Patrick Kenyon and Dennis Leckie that covers St. Mary Portland and St. Anne, and John Lloyd Johnson that and Jadon Dillon that covers St. Thomas, St. Andrew, and St. Catherine. Yours truly, Dane Parker and Charmaine Walker Robinson for Manchester and Clarendon, and Sion Spence and Andre Rance for Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. So, we bring to this field, a wealth of experience and knowledge. So feel free to reach out to us at any point in time. Again, too, for our different upcoming activities, of course, Demby is big on the scene. So, feel free to join us in the booth as we converse and share ideas. Let us hear from you. Bring your testimonials. Well, not bring your testimonials, your ideas, your information. What have you used our products to do, and how are those yields coming on? And of course, join us tomorrow morning on Power 106 as we, of course, continue this dialogue on backyard gardening, looking from backyard to your pot. Myself, as well as Sian Spence, will be on air and live, so feel free to tune in from 6:18 to 6:45. This, of course, brings us to another in the series where we, of course, continue to share with the farming community at large different ideas and strategies on how we can, of course, do and, of course, grow and develop. So, feel free to join us on a different platform, like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. Share the information. It's not too much to share it, so do just the same. So, Georgia, if there are no other questions in the chat, I'm not sure, I didn't see any more pop up. Of course, any other concerns, reach out to us on our WhatsApp line 401-4766. And of course, thank you again for joining us this afternoon as we continue to share in the space and, of course, bring to your knowledge, good agricultural practices. Thank you again for participating, and of course, for further review, of course, you can watch on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.